So we're gonna start with everybody's favorite. We just go ahead and start with drums. So um, on the drums, I started out with uh, getting the original drum straight. So I'm gonna turn off all of these plugins, and then we're gonna build this out together. So let's start with the kick drum. This is where this is what I received. Okay, so that's what I originally got. So for those who know, you know, I always start off with the SSL G-Channel just because it literally gives me a fast track to where I want to be. We'll turn this on. All right, so starting to clean up the kick drum and get rid of the poofy thuddiness, and that's going to be around your low mids, around that 250, 300 hertz. Um, that's going to get rid of that, and that's this area of the plugin right here. And then I'm enhancing some of the beater with this side of the EQ, and then getting some top end just a little bit. This is the magic side, and then this is the exponential sauce side, the compression and expansion. I don't really gate that much. I expand, and so the expander allows um, everything below a certain threshold to fade out. When it reaches that threshold, it lets everything in, and then it fades it back out. So let's check this out. So that expanding is always a fire feature. If you don't have the SSL G-Channel, the way to accomplish this is start off with an EQ, roll off this area that's 250, and it depends on the kick drum that you have, and get rid of the unnecessary low mid stuff, and then go ahead and crank up the top end where the beater is. So your EQ curve should look roughly something like this, and then everything moving forward will just move right along. So the EQ graph that I have is going to look something like this. So we're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of that 5, and then we're going to boost about that 1K, and then get just a little bit of the top end of the kick. This is what that EQ curve is going to look like. All right. And then you can go into your DAW, whatever DAW you have. You can go into your dynamics. And then we have here an expander and a gate. And same thing here. We're going to put this into the more of the gate mode. So, the expansion mode. And so basically you can tweak these settings between your attack, your hold and threshold, and this will give you a certain way to gate the drums and or expand. So in this case, we expanded. So that's what we're doing all in one plugin. That's why I love to use the SSL G-Channel, just because it has all of that built in. So that's going to be on majority of the drums. All right. So then let's start with the original snare that we have. And that's all I did with the original snare. I just rolled off some of this low end and some of the unnecessary top end that has the hi-hat content. So we just use that for one instance of the original snare. Now we have another version of the snare that's slammed, and that sounds like this. And what we have on there is the CLA 2A from Waves. So both the dry and the slam together. So you see how they're playing off each other. So next we're going to add one more instance of the snare top. And this is going to be a reasonable amount of the SSL G-Channel. This one is going to give us more of a transparent snare, what we're used to hearing. So let's listen to this. You hear how the snare is fading out? That's because of that expansion over in here. Then we have some crazy compression going on. We have like a 10-to-1 ratio. Then we have the threshold at about -12. So this is giving us some crazy action. That's where we're getting that slap and body from, as well as the EQ. So remember, we reduced 200 hertz from the kick drum, but we added 200 hertz on the snare drum as a contrast. We're going to be talking about that throughout this whole live stream. What we reduce, we can make up in other areas, all right, to have balance. So, and then on that, I actually added even more crispy slap top in on this snare as well. So all 3 natural snares plus the kick so far we have. All right, so now you're getting 3 versions of the original snare that gives us this nice complete capture. So then we have the snare bottom. My strategy with the snare bottom is to do the same thing I did on the snare top, but change the attack time on the compression on the SSL G-Channel. I'm going to play you what that sounds like. So let's come over here. Let's get rid of all of these for right now. Let's just listen to the snare bottom. Now I'm going to put the fast attack, turn it off. See how it gets punchier? Fast attack. Basically what it's doing is it's shaving off the initial transient. Is basically literally just slamming that to where you can't even really hear the attack at all. All you're left with is just the release. It's like a wah, 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 instead of pop, pop. So we have the pop from the top snares, and then we have the wah release of the bottom snare. And this gives you an aggressive balance. You get the aggression from the top, and then the release decay of the snare from the bottom. Let's listen to everything together. It enhances that decay, so you have a good contrast. All right, so that's a really good strategy to use for top and bottom snares. So the rest is sort of simpler as I go down the drums. On the hi-hat, I literally had to do some surgical work because there was some bleed. There are some things I didn't like, and I wanted it to sound as transparent as possible. So we're going to take off all the plugins, and then let's listen to the hi-hat. Now turn the EQ on. You see how we're focusing on the hi-hat now? Let's turn it off. I'm basically getting the entire kit in the hi-hat mic. So this is why I had to find all of the frequencies where the rest of the kit was, take those out, and then boost where I found where the hi-hat was actually sitting, and that's how we got here. So this is why we talk about why we replace drums or why we use samples. This is one of those reasons, because the hi-hat was not isolated properly. So in order to keep the drums intact, I had to basically do an unusual amount of EQ for the hi-hat mic. Now, of course, when we add compression to this, we're going to add more emphasis on what else is happening around the hi-hat. So I couldn't do a lot of compression, but the amount of compression that I did do is basically to help hone and focus on the hi-hat. Now it's starting to sound like we got an actual hi-hat mic going. And that's as far as I could go with it. If I processed it anymore, we'd be in the danger zone. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about toms. Toms is done in layers, all right? The layer of the toms is first with the individual channel strips. I'm going to find a spot where we got all the toms going on. So let's come over here. Okay. So on the toms, just to, get through them, I give you guys a hack. A good starting point would is to use a preset. What you can do is go into the presets and then boom, oh snap, there's Racktom. So you could use that preset as a starting point and tweak it. So there's a hack for you guys, all right? Try out the Racktom preset. It'll change your life. I did not use it. I'm using my own custom preset on this. So it says default. All I'm using this for is to get top in and expansion. All right, so the tom can fade in and out when it needs. You see what I mean? It just fades in when it comes in. So that's all I'm using that for. And that's happening right here in this area. And then just a little bit of top in around 8K. That's typically what I'm doing across all the individual toms. All right. So just to kind of make this go a little bit faster. Out of that, we're going into a tom's bus.
Mixing is a very, very hard art to master. I know because I've been trying to master this art for several years. That is one of the reasons why I do Mix Mondays. It's a learning environment, and every mix that I do, I learn something new. And I've taken everything that I've learned over the years and we have poured it into our mixing templates. Mixing templates are a great starting place, and we have created several templates that allow you to get up and going quickly, and we have created them for Logic Pro X. We have created them for Pro Tools, for Studio One, for Ableton Live, and so many others. So if you're interested in taking your mixing to the next level, or even just getting started, make sure you check out these links down and below in the description of this video and grab your template today. All right, back to the show.
And I usually like to start with CLA on the toms. And this, I love to use the treble bite setting in the CLA drums plugin from Waves. And that gives us this sound. All right, that's giving us a nice, I call them stadium toms. Those are really transparent, and it has a little bit of verb on it, a little bit of compression, and I like this a lot. And then next we have on the tom's bus is some EQ. Just a little bit of more top end from the Pro Tools EQ. This EQ did wonders. Without it, now listen to it. It's like the tom attack woke up. It's like it was asleep, and then it is now arisen out of its slumber. So we bumped up to about 3K here and did a nice shelf where it's going all the way out. So with that, let's add in our overheads. And I put the overheads in the bus. And on the overheads bus, we have the VMR. And I had to reverse engineer this. So on the overheads, I rolled off all the low end using the Neve EQ. The API is sitting idle, but I am getting initial saturation from the virtual channel, VCC channel. I'm rolling off some of the top end as well because we have vocals. So again, whatever you make space, whatever you duck out, you have more space in another area. That's going to be the theme of the live, creating space. This is how you do it. So ducked out the low end, took off some of the top end, and compressed the overheads. This is what that sounds like. All right, let's turn it off. All right, see how much is capturing all of the drums. So I want the kick drum to have all the way up to 160. I want the bass drum to have that, and the actual bass player himself. So I'm getting rid of all of the conflicting frequencies. So we add that back in. And now, without any samples, this is where we are with our drums. All right, next, let's get into the effects. We have our snare reverb and then our drum reverb. And for the snare verb, I'm using the Renaissance reverb from Waves, and that's giving us the initial reverb. And then right after that reverb, we have our drum verb, and I'm using the plates, the A plate setting, and I believe it should be the first thing that pops up when you pull up this reverb. So both of these are working together to give us that sound. All right, and then what I failed to mention about the kick drum is we do have Pro EQ, and again, this is where I mentioned creating space. So I rolled off everything below 33 hertz on that kick drum. Okay, let's play that with the song.
Everybody clap, let's go.
All right, we're not quite done. If we want the drums to cut through the mix even more, we have to do another layer. And that layer is the drum bus processing. So we started with some EQ.
Everybody clap, let's go.
All right, then we're going to add some compression from Waves. This is the SSL Bus Compressor.
Everybody clap, let's go.
Then we're going to stop right there. We're going to stop right there, and then we're going to make our way back to the drum bus. As we can hear, the drums are there, but they don't feel like they're a part of the song. This is why we bring in samples. The samples add the sonics and character to allow these acoustic drums that are recorded in an acoustic environment to gel and blend well with non-acoustic instruments, synths, piano, special effects, all these other digital instruments. We add samples to help gel the digital and the analog sound together. So now I'm going to add the kick sample and the snare sample, and then we're going to talk about which ones I use in just a second.
Everybody clap, let's go.
Now you see how it sounds like we all are in one family. It doesn't sound like the drums were recorded in Studio A and the rest of the record was recorded in Studio B. It sounds like everyone is in the same space. That's what using samples can do to enhance your live drum performance. Now we're going to come back to our drum bus. Now that we have that, here's something that you probably haven't seen before in this specific way. I actually put a limiter on the drums. And the reason why I put a limiter on the drums is I was just talking to my boy John Mike about the transient content from live drums. They eat away at you being able to get a lot of gain from the drums because of the transient activity. When you apply a limiter on anything, you're basically telling the signal this is how loud or how high amplitude or dB you're going to get. At this level, I want you to come down and be this level. In this case, I brought the threshold down to negative 9.9. And I changed the output ceiling to be 9.9. The reason why I did this is because now this is going to give us the opportunity to get more gain out of the drums than we would have without it. So I'm going to show you that right now. I want you guys to pay attention to the levels on this. Okay, here's the drums. Here's without the limiter. All right, so we peaked at literally like 5 over here around the 5 dB area, the -5. We're almost at 0. Now watch what happens when I put a limiter on. Do you guys see that? You see the levels on my meter? You see it's not going anywhere above 10, -10. You see that? One more time for you. We peaked before almost at -5. And now we're not going above -10, but yet the drums sound louder at a lower volume. One more time. I'm going to turn it off. See this? -5. A little bit above -5. Now let's put the limiter on. Look at the levels. All right, this is why I put the limiter on the drums, literally to shave off those transients. And now this gives me way more headroom to work with in terms of gain staging. So take that, use it to your advantage. This works with percussive instruments, anything that has a lot of transient activity. This strategy will change your life. You're going to get a maximum louder mix. Now with that, the last thing we did not cover is parallel compression. All parallel compression is I am taking the drum signal, duplicating that signal, and compressing the duplicated version, compressing the life out of it. All right. And so what's happening here is I'm blending the compressed version of the drums, the overly compressed version, with the clean version of the drums. So that gives us more consistent energy, a more, you feel like you're literally in the drum cage or the baffle or whatever you want to call it, but you feel like you stepped right into the drummer's seat. Basically, this gives you that same intensity. So with everything, all the processing on the drums, reverb, parallel compression, here we are. All right, that's the drums. That's all we did. Now let's talk about the samples. You guys will be proud to know that you can get these samples from gospelproducers.com. You can use these and use these from Gospel Producers. All right. And I believe in the browser here, we are using Yosh Drum Warehouse. All right, so I believe this is volume 2. Correct me if I'm wrong, John. Feel free to step in if I'm wrong, but I believe these are from volume 2.
And we got the code and everything.
There we go.
The screen and everything as well.
There it is. So that's what I'm using on the kick. These 3 samples. All right, from Yosh Drum Warehouse Volume 2. And then let's go to the snare triggers. We have some independent, but the main snares you're hearing is definitely Yosh Drum Warehouse. Those are the main ones that you're hearing. The rest of these are just reverb-based snares. All right. So another trick you can do with snare blend. This is the last piece of the drums. The last thing you can do with snare blend is use a designated sample snare only for reverb. So you keep your original snare like this. You can use this as your main snare, and then you can use this snare as just a reverb. Like you don't need any of the dry signal at all. You could just dump this in reverb and just turn it up. That's another strategy as well. So if you come across a client that really is married to the original tone, then just send the sample snare to a reverb with no clean signal, all wet, and that'll give you a nice blend as well. And that concludes the drums.
Yo, I hope you enjoyed this exclusive clip from our Mix Monday live streams. We do these live on Monday nights, so make sure you grab the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss it when we go live. If you want to check out more of these, check out this playlist right over here. And if you're interested in taking your mixing or production to the next level, check out the templates and the links that we have below. I'll talk to you guys on the next one. I'm out. Peace.